Sharp Practice by Robert Fitzgerald is a book that came out back in 2019, published by Three Hands Press, and it's a scholarly look into the ritual dagger in Bon Sorcery and Vajrayana Buddhism. I didn't know anything at all about in fact, I'm not even sure how to pronounce it. Perba or Furpa, depending on who's pronouncing it. I've done a little bit of research after somebody made fun of my calling it a Furba in one of my news videos. And it turns out that, Furba is a perfectly acceptable pronunciation. Many people also pronounce it Perba. I found Jason Miller pronouncing it Perba, and he actually spent time in Nepal. Perfectly happy to go with that pronunciation. But I've also found Indian people talking about it as a furba, and others talking about it as a furpa. I'm sure that the pronunciation doesn't matter so much as the understanding of what it all symbolizes does, right? Now, we've got a beautiful Three Hands Press book right here. Really, really beautiful. This is proper buckram, really a lovely, lovely texture, and this gorgeous gold stamp. Obviously the dust cover, of course, is very beautiful as well. I think for me this the raw book itself is just wonderful, really, really beautiful. And of course, the materials themselves. I mean, I've seen business cards that are thinner than these pages. These are very, very thick pages. And in fact, there aren't very many pages, right? The book itself clocks in at 61 pages plus acknowledgements and a few nice bits at the end here explaining how many books in total were printed. But the book itself is in, I'm going to say 4 parts. It's really 3 parts plus a very lengthy introduction, which I've certainly appreciated. That introduction really gave me a good idea of what I was about to read. Although I will say that if you have any familiarity with Tibetan Buddhism, with Vajrayana Buddhism, or with any form of Buddhism at all, you will start off with an advantage over someone like me who has very little knowledge of the jargon that goes alongside a lot of the Vajrayana Buddhism. What is nice is that the author does explain a lot of these foreign words, but those words do form a surprising amount of the text. If you weren't paying very close attention earlier on in the book, you'll get lost quite soon. However, your curiosity will certainly be rewarded. So I was talking to you about the introduction. Then there is this second part, which is called the shapes of wrath. And the shapes of wrath is about the symbology of the various parts of the Purba, and of course talks also about the differences between Bon and Vajrayana and the similarities between Bon and Vajrayana. Vajrayana, of course, is probably the most esoteric, might even go as far as to say left-hand path version of Buddhism. Left-hand path in the original tantric meaning of the word, not in the Western LaVeyan sense of the word. Maybe tantric makes more sense. Vajrayana Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism is the tantric form of Buddhism, and of course it has as its origin other forms of Buddhism, but it also clearly has as its origin Bon, which is like how to say, maybe a shamanic early set of practices from the Tibetan area. So there we are. So then, we've got the shapes. Let me see. The shapes of wrath is that first part where we're learning about the differences between Bon and Vajrayana, and the way both of these see the Purba or Furba. Then we've got the second part, which is the depths, and the depths goes into sorcery. So sorcerous uses of the Purba. There we go. So dagger sorcery and malefic magic. You can see that the book's actually quite tight, right? So that I'm exerting quite a lot of pressure on this because the pages are so thick. They are very, very pleasant to handle, but they are very stiff, right? You really have to control it quite carefully. That's just talking about the form there a little bit. There's no way this book is going to fall apart anytime soon. And then finally, after the depths, or maybe no, not quite finally, there's the heights. So the heights talks about the deity aspect, the deities aspects of the Purba, the deities associated to the Purba as a deity itself, and then the mandalas associated to the Purba, and some clues for further reading. And then there's this wonderful afterword, which some might think could be worth the entry price in itself, which is this really lovely rite designed in dream by the author, Robert Fitzgerald, right? He was revealed this particular practice, and he shares it with us here, and it's really, really, really very, very nice. And then we've got an acknowledgements page, of course, and a very helpful bibliography for anyone interested in Purba practice. There we are. As I say, I'm not a specialist of Tibetan Buddhism. I'm very interested in Tibetan Buddhism, but I'm very interested in many, many things. And so I've not been able to give Tibetan Buddhism the kind of attention that I wish that I would have time for, right? I do intend to dig a lot deeper very soon. At the moment, I'm still focusing quite heavily on Greek polytheism, but I think that Tibetan Buddhism is going to be very, very close in the list of the next things that I want to study. And this book has been quite a nice introduction. In fact, it's been quite a nice way in. As I say, the jargon heavy aspect of it has been challenging in the early pages, at least. It eases off surprisingly, actually, towards the middle of the book, where he starts talking about the baneful aspects of the kila or the Purba dagger. And I think that's probably going to be it from me for this particular book. I really enjoyed it. I think that if you're interested in Purba practice at all, if you're interested in dagger sorcery, in dagger philosophy, in Vajrayana Buddhism, in Bon at all, I think that this is going to be quite an interesting read for anyone, in fact, who picks this up. Just with that proviso that you'll need to pay quite close attention when some of those words at the beginning are being described and explained. It does assume, after a few pages, that you've assimilated all of that. So it's not necessarily a quick read, despite only being 60 pages. There we are. Maybe one final note is that The book was actually laid out by Joseph Uccello. The book design itself was, by Joseph Uccello. So, of course, it's a real pleasure to read. I think that I would have liked to have seen more headers. It's not like there aren't plenty of headers, there really are, but I would have liked to have seen the material broken up into maybe a slightly more granular parts. Yeah, I think that's probably the only big criticism that I would have. Apart from that, in fact, I've learnt so much from this book that really is by the by. I just think that the process of learning from it might have been a little bit eased if it had more logical headers for me to work out what exactly I'm reading about right now. There we are. Those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up. Subscribe down below if you haven't done so already. I hope you enjoyed the review, and see you very soon with another video. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.